The galaxy was quiet. For thousands of years, the stars lived under a single rule: peace. The Galactic Council had formed after ancient wars that once threatened to destroy countless civilizations. The survivors of that dark time had sworn never to repeat such mistakes. They banned great weapons, dismantled mighty fleets, and passed laws that forbade any species from building warships again. Generations passed. New worlds were colonized, new species were discovered, and still the promise of peace held strong. Entire empires flourished without fear of invasion. Children grew up never hearing the sound of a war alarm. To them, stories of conflict were nothing more than lessons in dusty history scrolls, the kind teachers read with a smile before reminding their students, "Such days are gone forever." The Galactic Council celebrated this peace with pride. They called it the greatest achievement of civilization, the final step of evolution. The council chambers, vast halls of crystal and light, were filled not with generals, but with philosophers, traders, and diplomats. They debated trade routes, cultural exchanges, and the expansion of learning. To speak of weapons or defense was considered uncivilized. Why prepare for war when war no longer existed? And so, across the stars, civilizations grew soft. Their fleets became small, meant only to patrol trade lanes or rescue stranded ships. Their armies vanished, replaced by peacekeepers who carried only ceremonial arms. Even border worlds no longer built strong defenses. There was no enemy left, or so they believed. But not all species felt the same way. When humanity arrived at the gates of the Galactic Council, they came as newcomers, stepping into a world of peace they had never known on their homeworld. Earth was young compared to the great empires of the stars. Their history was scarred with conflict, filled with endless wars fought over land, faith, and survival. They carried memories of battles still fresh in their stories, of weapons that had destroyed cities, of soldiers who had died with honor or despair. The Council looked at humanity with kindness, but also with pity. To them, humans were primitive, children, trapped by their violent past. They believed Earth would change once it joined the great family of the galaxy. The humans, they thought, would forget their scars. They would put away their weapons and learn the ways of peace, just as everyone else had done. But the humans did not forget. Admiral Elias Kane, the leader of Earth's delegation, sat in silence during the Council's grand speeches. He listened as leaders praised the harmony of the stars, their voices filled with pride, and he saw the way they smiled at his people. But behind those smiles, Kane felt something dangerous. He saw complacency. He saw a galaxy that had forgotten the lessons of history. In his heart, he carried a truth humanity could not abandon. Peace was fragile. Peace was never eternal. Peace survived only so long as someone had the strength to protect it. And so, while the galaxy sang songs of unity, while empires lowered their shields and erased the word war from their languages, humanity watched the stars with careful eyes. They studied. They remembered. They whispered warnings to themselves in quiet meetings on Earth, long after the Council had ended its sessions. Other races thought them strange. Some mocked them gently, calling them paranoid. Others simply shook their heads. After all, no threat remained in the galaxy. There was no enemy waiting in the dark. The Council had ended all of that, or so they believed. But deep beyond the edge of charted space, where old scars still lingered and shadows moved in silence, something stirred. Something that had never accepted peace. Something that remembered conquest and waited for the day when the galaxy would be too weak to resist. And while the galaxy dreamed of endless harmony, only humanity carried the instinct to prepare. Only humanity built in silence, remembering a truth the others had chosen to forget. Because in the heart of every human, one thought remained alive. Peace without strength is only an illusion. The Council Chamber was one of the greatest wonders of the galaxy. Built on the shining world of Vera Prime, it was a hall of crystal arches and golden light. Thousands of voices could be heard there, speaking in hundreds of languages, yet the chamber was always calm. The members of the council were proud of, This place, for to them it was living proof that peace had triumphed. On the day Earth was formally welcomed into the council, the chamber overflowed with joy. Leaders from 100 species gathered, wearing their most colorful robes and carrying banners of peace. Music filled the air, and the vast chamber glittered as if the stars themselves had come to witness this moment. High Chancellor Vayrine, a tall figure with silver skin and calm blue eyes, rose to speak. His voice echoed through the chamber like soft thunder. "Today," he said, "we welcome humanity, the youngest of our brothers and sisters, into the great family of the stars. No longer will you walk alone. No longer will you fight, for here, among us, war has no meaning. All disputes are solved with words, not weapons. All differences are healed with dialogue, not blood. This is the way of the stars." The chamber erupted with applause. Many species cheered, their voices rising in pride. To them, this was another victory for peace, another reminder that the galaxy had outgrown violence forever, but not everyone joined in the celebration. The human delegation sat quietly in their seats. Their faces were calm, their eyes watchful. Admiral Elias Kane, leader of the human group, did not smile. He looked around the chamber and saw the shining banners, the joyful faces, the endless pride. To most it was beautiful. To Kane it was troubling. He leaned slightly toward his aide, a young diplomat named Maria Holloway, and whispered, "Do they even understand what they're saying? Words cannot stop a fleet. Promises cannot hold back an enemy." Maria hesitated. "Perhaps, Admiral, they have lived in peace so long they believe it will never end." Kane's gaze hardened. "That belief will be their downfall." The speeches continued. Leaders of other species rose one by one, praising the golden age of peace. They spoke of trade, of science, of building schools and gardens on worlds once scarred by war. Every voice carried the same pride. Every voice carried the same blindness. When the ceremony ended, a feast was held in the council's honor hall. Tables of food stretched for miles, dishes prepared from 100 different worlds. Music, laughter, and light filled the air. Leaders toasted to humanity's future, speaking as though Earth's violent history had already been erased by the glow of council friendship. But Kane could not forget. He remembered Earth's history, the wars that had almost ended civilization, the times when peace was broken by greed, ambition, or hatred. He remembered the lessons written in blood across his world's history, and he wondered if these other races had ever truly learned, or had they simply buried their past so deep that they believed it could never return. Later, as the human delegation prepared to leave the Great Hall, Chancellor Vayrine approached Kane. His blue eyes shone with kindness. "You will see, Admiral," Vayrine said warmly. "Here, we have no need for soldiers. Here, peace is eternal." Kane met his gaze with steady eyes. His voice was calm, but inside it carried the weight of centuries of human memory. "Chancellor," he said, "peace is never eternal. It survives, only as long as someone is willing to defend it." Vayrine smiled politely as if he had heard the words of a child. Then he turned and walked away, certain that humanity would soon forget its scars, just as all others had done. But Kane did not forget. He could not forget. And in his silence he carried a warning the galaxy refused to hear. The galaxy slept in its illusion of safety. Across billions of stars, civilizations went about their daily lives, believing that war had ended forever. Trade. Routes hummed with commerce. Children played under alien suns, and leaders spoke only of art, science, and diplomacy. Danger was a story for history books, not a reality. But at the very edges of charted space, where the Council's influence barely reached, a darkness was stirring. The Kylthar Empire, long thought extinct, had not been destroyed. It had waited in silence, hidden among dead stars and black nebulae, building fleets in secret, training soldiers in voids where no eyes could see. Their leaders had not forgotten conquest, only bided their time. When the first human scouts detected movement in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, alarms rang quietly in Earth's command centers. The Council, however, did not respond with urgency. Patrol ships were sent, small vessels meant only to observe. But even from afar, the scouts reported terrifying truths. The Kylthar ships were massive, their weapons far beyond anything the Council had maintained for centuries. They moved like shadows of death across the void, consuming star systems in their path. Entire colonies vanished in a single day. Worlds that had known nothing but peace were burned. Planets that had once prided themselves on safety now sent desperate messages into space pleading for help. The Council, paralyzed by centuries of complacency, could do nothing. Its fleets were too small, its patrol craft too weak, and its diplomats too hesitant. The Kylthar laughed as they advanced. Their fleets were black and jagged, weapons glowing with fire, engines thrumming like the heartbeat of a predator. Their goal was simple: domination. Any world that resisted would be destroyed. Any civilization that hesitated would fall. Peace was a luxury they did not respect. On Earth, Admiral Kane watched the reports pour in, his face pale but determined. He saw the Council's inaction, their shock and their disbelief, and it made his blood boil. Humanity had fought wars for centuries. They knew the price of inaction. They had seen entire nations collapse because no one acted until it was too late. And now, across the galaxy, a predator had awakened, while the other species still sang songs of peace. Kane called his officers to the bridge of Earth's orbital command ship. "This is not a drill," he said. "The galaxy has forgotten the truth. Peace is fragile. And now, we must act, because no one else will." His words carried a weight that even his young aides could feel. The Kylthar were ruthless, intelligent, and unstoppable if left unchecked. The human fleet was small, but it was prepared in ways the Council could not imagine. Hidden in secret facilities across Earth, warships had been built, ships that no other species had ever seen, armed with weapons capable of unimaginable destruction. Meanwhile, the Council continued to debate. High Chancellor Vayreen insisted that diplomacy could still work. Envoys were sent, messages were exchanged, and words flew like sparks across the void. But the Kylthar did not reply with words. They replied with fire. Entire colonies were destroyed before the envoys even reached their systems. The galaxy trembled. The Council's peace had failed. And for the first time in centuries, fear returned to the hearts of every civilization. They looked to Earth, to humanity, with a mixture of hope and doubt. Admiral Kane stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic map of the Kylthar advance. His hands clenched at his sides. In his heart, he carried the weight of a truth the galaxy had forgotten. Peace alone cannot protect the innocent. Only strength can, and humanity was ready. The HMS Valiant had been silent for years, hidden in Earth's deepest orbital docks. To the galaxy, it did not exist. To the Council, it was a forbidden legend, a story whispered only in secret reports. Humanity had built it in secret, forging a warship unlike any other, a ship designed to survive the unthinkable and strike back with force that could reshape worlds. Admiral Elias Kane stood before the Valiant's gleaming hull, his eyes tracing every line of steel and energy conduits. The ship's massive hull reflected the light of Earth's sun like a burning star, and its engines thrummed with potential power, waiting for a single command. Kane felt a strange pride, mingled with a heavy sense of responsibility. This ship was not only a weapon, it was humanity's statement to the galaxy. "This is what the others forgot," Kane said quietly to his aide, Maria Holloway. "They believe words will stop a fleet. They believe peace alone will protect them. But peace is fragile. It is strength that protects peace." Maria shivered at the sight of the Valiant. "It's enormous. I've never seen anything like it." "It was meant to be," Kane replied. "If we cannot defend ourselves, then no one will." Inside the ship, corridors gleamed with polished steel. Crew members moved with disciplined precision, checking weapons, shields, and engines. Rail cannons lined the hull, capable of splitting mountains. Missile bays brimmed with destructive force. Energy shields, stronger than any in the galaxy, glimmered softly as if alive. Every inch of the Valiant had been engineered for one purpose: survival against impossible odds. Kane activated the bridge console. Holographic screens displayed the Kael'thar fleet, hundreds of ships advancing through the void. The human crew worked in silence, their faces calm but focused. There was no fear here, only preparation. Humanity had survived wars before. Humanity had learned how to fight when all hope seemed lost. News of the Valiant's awakening spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. The Council reacted with horror. High Chancellor Varen summoned Kane to appear via HoloLink. "You must stand down, Admiral," Varen demanded. "Your ship is forbidden by every law of the Council. You cannot intervene." Kane's eyes met the holographic figure of Varen. He spoke steadily, each word heavy with conviction. "Chancellor," he said, "your laws cannot stop this fleet. Words are useless against fire. If you do not act, millions will die. We cannot wait for permission when the galaxy burns." Varen recoiled at Kane's words, as if the truth itself had struck him. The Council had grown comfortable in its peace. They had believed no enemy existed, and now, standing before them, was evidence that peace alone could no longer protect them. Kane turned back to the bridge. "Prepare to jump," he ordered. "We move to the Kael'thar's front lines. Humanity will show the galaxy the cost of forgotten war." The Valiant's engines flared to life, powerful streams of energy igniting in the void. The ship lifted from its dock, a shining colossus emerging into space. Its weapons hummed, energy fields shimmering, ready to confront the darkness that no other fleet dared challenge. As the Valiant left Earth orbit, thousands watched in awe and fear. Humanity had revealed its secret, and the galaxy's fragile illusion of peace shattered. Some whispered in hope, some whispered in dread. All knew one truth. A force had awakened that could not be ignored. Kane stood at the helm, his hand resting lightly on the command console. The stars stretched before him, the Kael'thar fleet glowing like dark storms on the horizon. In that moment he carried the weight of humanity, of the innocent colonies under threat, and the burden of teaching the galaxy a lesson it had long forgotten. And as the Valiant leapt toward its first engagement, the universe would soon understand. A simple truth: humanity did not come seeking peace. Humanity came to defend it, by any means necessary. The Kael'thar fleet loomed in the darkness like a living shadow, thousands of ships stretching across the void. Each vessel was jagged and black, engines glowing with dangerous fire. Their weapons pulsed, ready to strike. To most civilizations, this fleet was unstoppable. To the Council, it was a nightmare beyond imagination. But for humanity, it was a challenge they were ready to meet. The HMS Valiant appeared in orbit above the first world under attack, its massive hull gleaming in the dim light of distant suns. The Kael'thar warlords saw the ship and sneered. They believed it was just another patrol craft, a small obstacle easily crushed. They had not anticipated its size, its power, or the human will that commanded it. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge, calm but resolute. Around him, crew members moved, with disciplined precision, activating shields, loading missiles, and readying rail cannons. The hum of the ship was like the heartbeat of a predator, waiting for the moment to strike. "Target the lead fleet," Kane ordered. "Do not hold back. Humanity does not wait for permission." The Valiant's weapons flared to life. Rail cannons, discharged with explosive force, ripping through the nearest Kael'thar ships. Missile swarms launched in perfect formation, striking vessels with deadly precision. Energy shields shimmered as they absorbed retaliatory fire, deflecting attacks that would have obliterated any ordinary ship. The Kael'thar were stunned. Wave after wave of attacks shattered their formations, leaving wreckage drifting silently through space. Their warlords roared in anger, refusing to believe that a single human warship could destroy so many of their fleet. Below, on the planets under siege, survivors looked up in disbelief. For the first time, they saw a force willing to fight, willing to protect them when no one else could. Hope surged in their hearts like a flame long thought extinguished. Even the Council watched in stunned silence. Some feared humanity's power, wondering if they had underestimated the humans for centuries. Others felt relief. realizing that the galaxy's fragile peace might yet be saved. But all knew that this battle had changed everything. Hours turned into a relentless clash. The Kael'thar pressed forward, but the Valiant moved like a shadow, across the battlefield, striking and vanishing, impossible to predict. Every engagement ended with human victory, and every victory sent a clear message. The galaxy's peace had survived only because humanity refused to let it die. Still, the cost weighed on Kane. He saw the destruction, the dying ships, the blackened remnants of once thriving fleets. He understood the weight of power, the burden of being the one force capable of stopping a ruthless enemy. Yet he did not falter. Humanity had learned long ago that to protect life, they sometimes had to walk through fire. On the bridge, Maria, Holloway spoke softly, almost to herself. It's incredible, but how can one ship do all this? Kane's gaze remained fixed on the Kael'thar fleet. Not one ship, he said. A human will, disciplined and unbroken. That is what they cannot destroy. As night turned to day across distant suns, the first major Kael'thar fleet was shattered. Their ships drifted like broken tombstones. In the void, engines silent, weapons cold. Humanity had proven its might, but the war was far from over. The Kael'thar would regroup, and their vengeance would be swift. Yet for the first time, the galaxy knew that strength could protect peace. They had witnessed a human warship, but more than that, they had seen the courage, the strategy, and the resolve that came with it. And somewhere deep in the void, the Kael'thar realized a terrible truth. The humans were not like the others. They would not surrender. They would not negotiate. They would fight. And fight they did, with fire, precision, and the unyielding will of a species that refused to be defeated. The HMS Valiant continued its relentless march through the enemy lines, a shining reminder to all that the galaxy's peace was worth fighting for no matter the cost. The galaxy had changed. No longer could civilization sit in comfort, believing peace was eternal. The Kael'thar threat had shown them their vulnerability. Her ability, and the HMS Valiant had shown them what true power looked like. Across star systems, species watched in awe, disbelief, and fear. Humanity had become something entirely new in their eyes, not just a member of the Council, but a force that could decide the fate of the galaxy itself. In some systems, humans were hailed as saviors. Worlds that had been on the brink of destruction now celebrated the courage and strength of one ship and its crew. Messages of gratitude poured into Earth. Your warship saved us. You gave us hope. Children drew pictures of the Valiant in the skies above their planets, stars blazing behind it, and told stories of humans who refused to bow. Yet admiration was paired with fear. Many council members whispered behind closed doors, questioning humanity's intentions. Could one species, so powerful and determined, become a threat itself? Could the very humans who defended peace also dominate it? The Kael'thar had been defeated for now, but the galaxy now understood a difficult truth. Strength could protect, but it could also terrify. The council convened urgently. High Chancellor Veyron, usually calm and measured, paced before the assembly. His voice trembled slightly as he addressed the delegates. Humanity. They have power unlike anything we imagined, he said. We must consider the consequences. Other leaders nodded in agreement, some with relief, some with unease. The galaxy had believed peace was enough. They had not prepared for the reality that true security required action, strategy, and sometimes overwhelming force. Meanwhile, aboard the HMS Valiant, Admiral Kane did not celebrate. Victory in the first engagements did not bring him joy. He knew the Kael'thar were still out there, their fleet scattered but not broken. Their vengeance would come, stronger and more ruthless than before. Kane looked at his crew, all young and disciplined, yet tired from the relentless battles. He felt the weight of every life in the galaxy upon his shoulders. Maria Holloway approached him quietly. Admiral, the galaxy looks to us now. They see humanity as their protector. Kane's eyes narrowed. They see us as their shield because they forgot how to fight. We are only doing what must be done. Hope is a fragile thing, Maria. If we fail, it will vanish in an instant. He turned to the glowing holomap of the galaxy. Red marks showed Kael'thar ships regrouping, plotting their next strikes. Every system vulnerable, every world at risk. The Valiant moved silently among the stars, a symbol of fear and respect. Everywhere it appeared, it reminded civilizations of the simple truth humanity had never forgotten. Peace is fragile. Strength is eternal. Some races began to rebuild their fleets, inspired by humans. Others sent envoys to Earth, seeking guidance and strategy. Even the Council, once skeptical and proud, now recognized that humanity's approach was not reckless. It was necessary. Humanity had done what the galaxy could not, turned fear into protection, despair into hope, and weakness into survival. Yet in Kane's heart, there was no triumph, no pride. There was only focus. Humanity's warship had proven its power, but it had also proven a warning. The galaxy could never again rely solely on dreams of peace. Vigilance was the only path forward, and the cost of failure was far too high, and so the stars watched and waited. Fear mixed with respect, awe intertwined with gratitude, and the universe learned a lesson long forgotten. Sometimes, only one species has the courage to defend a galaxy that refuses to remember the price of war. The HMS Valiant continued its silent patrol, engines glowing like a beacon of both hope and warning. Humanity had earned the galaxy's respect and its fear, and in the hearts of all who watched, one truth was clear. This was only the beginning. The war was far from over, yet a new understanding had spread across the galaxy. Every species now knew the truth. Peace without strength was an illusion. The Kael'thar had regrouped, more determined than ever, their hatred of humanity growing with each defeat. Entire fleets were rebuilt in secret, preparing for vengeance. But humanity, led by Admiral Kane and the HMS Valiant, stood ready, a sentinel in the darkness. Planets that had once trembled in fear now looked to the Valiant for protection. Civilizations rebuilt their shattered homes, sending engineers, pilots, and soldiers to assist in preparation for the battles to come. Humanity's influence spread not through diplomacy or domination, but through example, the determination to protect life, no matter the cost. Kane knew the truth that others often forgot. Power alone did not save lives. Courage, discipline, and sacrifice were equally vital. Each mission, each engagement with the Kael'thar, demanded careful planning and absolute resolve. He had watched countless young crews face dangers far greater than anything their ancestors had ever imagined. Some would not return. The weight of each life lost pressed on him like gravity. Still, Kane never wavered. He walked among his officers, offering guidance, encouragement, and calm in the midst of chaos. He reminded them that humanity had survived worse than empires and fleets, that they had endured fires, famine, and endless wars on a world that had once burned itself in conflict. Humanity did not yield. Humanity did not surrender. And in that, truth lay the foundation of their strength. The Council, now united in both fear and respect, reluctantly supported the humans. Other species rebuilt their defenses and fleets inspired by the humans' courage. Yet none could match the Valiant, which moved like a comet through enemy lines, striking where the Kael'thar least expected, shattering their ships and scattering their forces. The galaxy had learned that the humans were not invaders. They were guardians, relentless and unyielding. But victory came at a price. Many worlds lay in ruins, the Kael'thar's attacks leaving scars that would last for centuries. Families mourned, civilizations struggled to recover, and countless lives had been lost before humanity could halt the relentless tide. Kane understood the weight of these sacrifices. Each casualty was a reminder of why they fought, a painful lesson that peace must always be defended, even when it costs everything. In the final confrontation, the Valiant faced the remaining Kael'thar flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons. The battle was fierce, fire and energy lighting the void like a storm of stars. Rail cannons tore through enemy hulls, missiles streaked like meteors, and the ship's shields absorbed attacks that would have shattered entire worlds. Humanity fought with precision, courage, and the unbroken will to survive. When the battle ended, the Kael'thar fleets lay in ruins. Their empire was broken, and their ambitions crushed. Silence returned to the galaxy, but it was not the same, quiet as before. The stars had learned something new. Peace must be earned and defended, and sometimes one species must bear the burden to protect all others. The council summoned Cain once more. This time their faces held awe, gratitude, and a cautious respect. Varen spoke, his voice quieter than before. Humanity, you have changed the galaxy. We believed in peace, but now we understand its price, and its protector. Cain nodded, solemnly. We did what was necessary. Peace is fragile, remember that. As the Valiant returned to Earth's orbit, the crew was tired but unbroken. The galaxy had survived, but the lesson remained clear. Vigilance must never end. Humanity had proven the strength to defend countless worlds, and the universe would never again underestimate them. In the end, the galaxy believed in peace, but humanity's warship had shown them the truth. Strength was the guardian of hope, courage was its shield, and sacrifice was the cost of survival. And the stars, once quiet and complacent, now whispered a single truth across the void. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never forget it.